not a little perverse. I'm sure I speak for everyone here when I say how grateful we are to be part of your promotional DVD.
I blame all of you for nothing. I just want to get that out right now. The fact of the matter is, I ran out of time. I could do what I was originally planning. And God help me, I didn't want for it to get this bad. They locked me in my apartment. Put me with some sort of fucked up clown dummy, man. And they gave me one mission. They told me they wanted me to play a game. Oh my God. They want me to play Saw 2! Oh God, man, I'm fucked. You gotta help me. You gotta help me.
Saw 2 Flesh and Blood was released on October 19, 2010 and designed by Zombie Studios. The story follows Michael Tapp, Detective David Tapp's son, as he tries to find clues involving his father's death. In the process, though, he becomes a victim of the Jigsaw Killer. Much like the first game, this fared terribly critically. Though, unlike the first game, it got panned almost completely by critics. This makes one of the few horror series to be absolutely loathed by just about everyone, ever.
So, Saw 2 was designed by Zombie, and Silent Hill Downpour was designed by Vatra. Other than bad reviews, what do these two games have in common? Yeah, they're both published by Konami. Konami, who once had their heads straight. Now, I'm distracted here by the sheer fact that it's Konami who published the games, and I'll admit, I like Konami. They gave us the Simpsons arcade game, the Ninja Turtles games, the Silent Hill series. Looking at my rack of games, I am hard-pressed to find another Konami series. But I like Konami. That's the point. They gave us the first Soul game, while far from perfect, wasn't a bad game per se. It wasn't this. Don't mind the cat, she's currently in the Soul Trap right now too. But I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they published this. I really don't. There is no redeeming factor in this game other than its complete and utter hilarity.
The first game did have some redeeming qualities, even though most critics despised it. The main complaint was the combat and some of the puzzles being cheap. But the overall story did an acceptable continuation of the first movie, and even added some backstory, so much that it was considered canon to the overall series of Saw. This game, on the other hand, they dropped the ball just about every chance they could get. The big issue isn't so much programming incompetence as it is bugs, though. Granted, there is a certain level of incompetence in the game. There are several bugs in the game, including one where you're fighting a guy in a hallway, but if you choose to try to solve the puzzle first, the guy will quite literally interrupt you and wait for you to be finished with the puzzle before he starts attacking you. Either he's the most polite asshole I've ever seen, or he just doesn't want to kill you out straight. Then you have the traps, such as exploding floors, spike traps, or maybe even the occasional collapsing ceiling. These aren't necessarily Saw traps where you usually get yourself stuck in them and have to find a way out in about 60 seconds. No, those are reserved for NPCs that you have to save, which breaks the continuity of what the game was supposed to be. The original concept of the game was, save the people or don't, just get out alive. The problem is, with all the traps, enemies going to get you, and just about everything else, your own will to live will be tested. I'm not talking about the characters, I'm talking about yours.
And you'll die a lot in this game. A lot. Whether it's from the stupid combat minigame where you have to wait for someone to attack you in order to press a button to dodge, or from exploding floors it's not that the game's difficult. It really isn't. It's just cheap. I mean, okay, here's the thing. With the Saw 1 combat, in order to fight someone, you had to literally run up to them while swinging your fist. I mean, Bart Simpson style. If they walk into your fist, it's their own fault. Just like that was, doing that with my bad shoulder was my own fault. This one, they just run up to you, attack you, and you go, okay. Until you press square button, and hopefully at the right time before they fucking kill you. Can you imagine, I don't know, playing Call of Duty and waiting to take 3 shots to the face before you can fire back? No one fights like that. No one that, wants to live. Which is the point of the series. Wait a minute. Why are you killing people then? I don't know if you heard that, but that was the sound of my brain snapping!
Just so people who are unfamiliar with the Saw series understand, the premise of Jigsaw's methods of trapping people wasn't necessarily to kill them. He would get people who were essentially flawed, such as drug addicts, child molesters, or even murderers, put them in the traps, and if they escaped, they had a second chance in life. So, effectively, in this game, you have yourself trying to escape, trying to help certain other people, but other people trying to escape the same trap and told to kill you. No matter what, someone has to die. And as stated in the series, that's not what Jigsaw wants. He wants people to have a second chance in life. This is completely counterintuitive to everything the series has established. Of course, then you have to realize something. Both Saw games had to be run through the movie's creators to make sure they would fit in with the canon. The first one does that. This one takes the canon, throws it in a dumpster, incinerates that dumpster, then takes the ashes and throws them back in another dumpster, sends them to some third world country, only to have someone take it back, launch it to space, and then have it become a comet of garbage coming down onto the planet. I don't know where I was going with that analogy, so please forgive me. I was just thinking of Futurama, and it took me to my happy place for a second there. Then I realized I was talking about Saw 2, and I came right back. Luckily, Zombie Studios thought that, hey, combat's a bit flawed here. It's a mini-game. In a game full of mini-games. That's right. It is a survival horror puzzle game. Just think about that for a minute. The puzzles do work pretty well until you realize there's an essential flaw with the way they are designed. And by essential, I don't mean small, I mean game-breaking, humongous flaw in the design of these puzzles.
Speaking of puzzles, the first game had puzzles too, and it had the same issue that this one does. While the setup for the puzzle doesn't change, the pieces do. So occasionally, you'll get a puzzle that is completely unsolvable. Now, it was worse in the first game than it was in this, admittedly, especially towards the end, where you had to solve this one puzzle and it refused to give you the right piece on one thing. So you'd have everything else set up, but one thing that wasn't there. And most of the puzzles in this game are, to unlock weapons or special items that you'll need, like, a key. Unfortunately, this can lead you to a point where you're trying to get a special item, like a key, and the game doesn't give it to you. They tried to solve this by giving you certain pieces, like the conduit piece, to unlock the fuse box puzzles. But it doesn't do anything to change the fact that the pieces in the actual puzzle are completely fucking randomized.
As stated, that while most of the game is concentrated on puzzles, there is, in fact, combat. Just go with it. At this point, if I think too much about it, I'm pretty sure my brain's gonna snap again, and no one here or there can fucking afford that. The problem is, the combat in this game, and oh god, I barely want to talk about this, consists of you just sitting there until they attack you, pressing the square button at the right time, and then hitting another button to attack the person and kill them in 1 to 4 hits. Once you kill the person, they're dead, but you're left without a weapon. Now keep in mind, this doesn't even give you a choice in how many guys to fight, if you're going to fight at all. If there's a guy there and he's running up to attack you, you either lock him in a room, lock yourself in a room, and cancel all progress of the game, or you kill him. If you're facing 2 guys, you're left without a weapon after the first, and you have to find another one, which there probably won't be in the immediate area. Add to the fact that there's also guys that you have to kill without fighting them by leading them into either spike traps or pits. Is it any surprise that the combat was secondary to everything else in this game? Consider the fact that gameplay was secondary in this game, and just think about how secondary combat would have to be. At that point, you gotta start scratching your head and thinking, why did they even bother with the combat at all?